Hello, good evening, and welcome. I'm John Lazarus with Stories Matter and D&E Publishing. If you're a writer and you're anything like me, you've probably run into this problem. You've written a heartfelt, personal story that's honest and articulate, but it's just not manipulating the reader through cheap trickery enough. You have to remember, readers are people who don't care about human connections. They want to be titillated. I mean, if readers really wanted to form human connections, they'd give up their 6 cats for adoption, socialize at local sporting events, and stop waiting to make sure public bathrooms are empty before using them. We'll explore the do's and don'ts of plot devices to spice up your narrative on this edition of Stories Matter. Today's video is brought to you by guns. A favorite of classic authors from Chekhov to Burroughs to Hemingway, guns are a useful addition to any writer's arsenal. Whether you want to exercise your Second Amendment rights, show an obstinate editor you mean business, or steal back an unfinished manuscript from your former business partner that says it amounts to libel, you'll always feel safer with a gun. I personally keep 3 pistols in my office, only one of which my secretary knows about, and I've gone 5 years with hardly any incidents. Visit your local Walmart for more information. Alright, now, a plot device is any technique that is used to move your narrative forward. As I've said, plot devices add flair to your story, and they also give it a sense of direction. Think of a story without plot devices as the depressed, unstable Weimar Republic, and one with plot devices as the stylish, powerful Third Reich. With that in mind, not all plot devices are created equal. An inferior plot device can be a hackneyed, cliched cry for attention. While you may have started your writing career with that mindset, let's see if we can't find some more effective ways to add structure and momentum to our stories. Avoid. Love triangle. For years, writers have used this plot device as a way to generate conflict. And in the past, it made sense. 2 men dueling with pistols at dawn for the affection of an unwedded virgin was something everyone could relate to. Unfortunately, in today's society, love triangles don't really add any conflict or tension to your narrative because spit roasting, Eiffel towering, and the acceptance and promotion of general cuckoldry have become so common. Use. Deal with the devil. If you want to make 3 people have sex together and make it interesting, try using the deal with the devil. In this plot device, a character makes a deal to get something they want with an unintended negative consequence. For example, in my 2010 short story Three's Company, the main character gets a genie to make both his female roommates fall in love with him. Unfortunately, by a cruel twist of fate, it turns out both women get pregnant. Avoid. Red herring. This one is a mainstay of all mystery fiction. A red herring is basically a misleading clue. For starters, I don't like any plot device that makes law enforcement look foolish, #BackTheBlue. But more importantly, you don't want to risk making your reader feel stupid. When I wrote The Mystery of the Mayan Ruins, and I put the fingerprints of the chief archaeologist on the murder weapon, and included his written confession 3/4 of the way through my narrative, my fans were furious when it turned out that he was innocent, and that God did it. Use. MacGuffin. This one's less offensive to law enforcement, as it's usually the criminal element that gets fooled. A MacGuffin is an object or character that creates conflict and that all the characters are striving for or chasing after, even though the object is ultimately less important than the drama that it creates. And if you think about it, people connect to this because it relates to our experience. We chase after jobs that will eventually quit or get fired from in disgrace. We chase after lovers who will leave us or die before we do. We want to stay alive, but we die anyway, and then everyone we have ever known will die too, and then the Earth will die, and the universe won't give a shit, and nothing we will have ever done will have made any difference at all. Avoid. Cliffhanger. Let's move on. The cliffhanger was a mainstay of serialized fiction and later television, where executives decided TV watchers needed something to discuss over the summer to take their mind off of the anguish of being forced to leave their house and explore nature. Anyway, the reason I don't like the cliffhanger is that readers and publishers expect you to follow them up. I once wrote a young adult story about a boy who discovers a magic amulet that gives him the power to talk to rocks. Now, I never cared for children, and I don't much like writing about them. In fact, I only wrote the book after a misunderstanding with the publisher while driving my car through a tunnel. The book ended with the evil wizard returning, which I intended to mean that the protagonist and all his schoolmates were going to be exterminated, while avoiding censors, obviously. But instead, I was pressured by my publisher to push out 5 more books of this childish nonsense. Use false death. This one's a much better way to pull a fast one on your audience, and it rings more true to real life. When I got a call that my first wife had died in a climbing accident, only to discover that it was a ploy by my ex-business partner to break into my house, it put me through a whirlwind of emotions that I realized would be compelling in a drama. Similarly, growing up in a big city and having a father with a very common name, not John Smith, but basically the same, it meant that I had police and reporters calling me to say he'd been gunned down in a bank robbery or broiled alive in an industrial smelter fairly often. Avoid Deus ex machina. This might be the most hated of all plot devices, but it's an understandably useful way of writing yourself out of a corner. If you're a new writer, don't worry if your first 30 or 40 novels use this, but eventually you'll have to move past it. Use Artifact of Doom. What's an Artifact of Doom? Well, for example, I could say that by watching this video, you are now going to die in 7 days. That would be an Artifact of Doom. Sometimes there's a catch to break the curse, for example, by subscribing to my channel. Of course, if you were born between 1985 and 2000, you have no economic prospects and probably yearn for death anyway, so this might have the opposite effect as intended. This is why no matter what plot device you use, it's important to have well-defined characters and to know your audience. That's all for today. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll leave you with this week's This Day in Literary History. See you on the next one.